Welcome to Leadership DNA, a podcast for those who aspire to be a better leader. Alongside Arturo Gomez, I'm Rob Cressy. Today's topic, growth mindset, and oh, am I excited for this. So Arturo, what is growth mindset?
I think it's acknowledging that change is possible. You know, that there is something within you that can create alternative outcomes, right? And so it's, for me, it has been, and I think for you as well, and I know we've talked about it at length, but I think it is 100% the mindset that I've adopted for the last, call it 3 or 4 years. I mean, I would say that there's portions of this mindset that have been with me for a long time. But I think more recently, focusing on the fact that you can change whatever it is that you want to change. And some people may say, hey, you know what, there's certain things you can't change. I actually don't believe that. I don't believe that there is something that is unchangeable. Now, granted, if you're unhappy with something that was God-given, I guess there is possibility to change that. But everything, for the most part, has an option and a path to an alternative outcome.
Yeah, and for me, I see it as a belief about learning that I can grow and get better. And the way that you sort of frame this is around growth mindset. Hey, things can change, things can get better. Fixed mindset, I'm stuck with where I am right now. And I'm with you. I've been living this growth mindset for over 8.5 years right now. And it was something that happened to me almost instantaneously when I left my corporate job to go all in at being an entrepreneur and going from 6 figures to $0 overnight. And I realized that everything was up to me now. I became self-aware. And then I started to audit the success habits of the most successful people in the world and people I aspire to do things like. And the story I always tell is, you always heard the average CEO reads 60 books a year. And I'm like, crap, I'm reading 0. Think I might want to get on that. Well, guess what? You start reading 60 books a year. What do you think starts happening to your hunger to get better? Now, in all areas of my life, I'm like, how can I grow? How can I grow? How can I grow? And that's what it really is you see yourself almost like, to give a movie reference, Neo in the Matrix, when he realizes, oh my God, I can learn anything. And that's really how I see my journey is I can learn anything because I am someone who is self-taught. And a big pivotal moment in my career was someone once said to me, Rob, if you ever hope to get paid to do what you love, you better be doing it already. My dream at the time was to work in sports. And I had not created a podcast before. I'd never been on camera, never behind a microphone, no social media experience, never built a community. So guess what I did? I taught myself every aspect of it because I had a growth mindset to say, if you want something, you can grow and make it happen.
I love it. And by the way, this is, there's a lot of things that we're talking about on these podcasts that I think they're obviously timely because we're bringing in current, issues and current events into the way that we're kind of digesting and discussing these things. But I think that people right now have to take a growth mindset approach, because the world is a different place than what we left it 12 months ago. Okay. And we're coming up on a year anniversary of the pandemic. And I think that there is one thing that I've felt that collectively community and people have really been dedicated to, at least through this process, is a growth mindset. And I speak to a lot of people, maybe because, I tend to surround myself with individuals that feel or have a sentiment similar to myself in terms of that things are possible, and in terms of that the possibilities are vast and we can make change. And so I think that there's only 2 alternatives, right? It's to think that growth and change is not possible, and the other one is that it is possible. And so making the conscious decision to adopt that type of mindset requires a couple things. And it just, commitment stands at the very top of that. You have to be committed to the process. You have to, um, if it's requiring you to get up early, you got to do that not just one day a week. You have to do it every day of the week. Okay. I think having a goal in mind and having, some type of vision of where you want to go is part of this process. So, a growth mindset is, to me, is driven by commitment, is driven by a goal, a place. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What do you want to change? I also think that the goals. Listen, you can. For me, I've found a lot of the journey has been so much more satisfying if the goals have um, value really driven to just to better myself. It's not specifically around a dollar value. It's not specifically about material things. It's specifically about challenging myself to see how high I can go. How fast can you go? What's the realm of possibility around who you are? And so that to me has been the driving factors. I mean, so we had a podcast discussion about impermanence and how things are always changing for the better, and sometimes things may shift, and you may view them as hey, this is the alternative of, or this is the other side of better. This is bad. I'm in a bad situation. We can make change whatever the situation is, and we have to understand that life is constantly changing around us, whether we're implementing it or not. But I think that there's a good way to stay on track if we're participating in the process and doing what we can to get to where we want to be.
Yeah. And I love that you talked about what people are experiencing right now. And I know you and we audit the circles around us very closely because we need a certain level of excellence in energy around us. But I do believe as a whole, having a growth mindset right now is a challenge for the overwhelming majority of people because they feel stuck in the position where they are. They feel stuck about always being in their house and maybe not going out as much and having uncertainty for what's going to happen tomorrow or a month from now or a year from now. And it's something that when I think about when the pandemic first hit, it was eye opening to me because I just reverted back to what I've been taught, that don't focus on the monsters that may or may not lie ahead. Focus on what you can do right in this moment. And I've always seen this pandemic in the last year as the greatest opportunity for growth in my life. And certainly as a leader and as a business owner, because if you think about what percentage of the market, companies, or people that are stagnant, shrinking, or going away right now. Well, imagine the inverse, where if you said, not only am I not going backwards, I'm going forward and I'm going faster than I ever have it at any point in my entire life. And maybe that's what's necessary in order to survive and succeed right now. But I think part of a growth mindset is also your vision and long term nature of things, that the work we put in today, you know what, it might not pay off for 5 years, 10 years down the road, because I'm still just starting to see some fruits of my labor from when I first started this 8.5 years ago, where you're like, wow, during the pandemic, things are actually starting to pick up. And you're like, how's that possible? Well, I don't know, waking up super early for 8 straight years and reading and investing in your personal development and your mindset. And I think this is something that's important to also say, this is not just a one bucket thing. When you've got a growth mindset, it's important that we're talking about mindset, family, relationships, opportunities, business, health, because all of these will, when you add them up together, that's who you are on a regular basis. So you walk to the gym, you're like, boom, I'm ready to crush this. Then you come back, you're ready to do a podcast and connect with other people. There's an energy to people who are always thinking about growth.
Right. It's important. I think it is founded also in the concept of self-love. I mean, you got to really, really care about yourself to maintain the commitment, and again, it's not in a narcissistic way, but you have to really believe that your efforts and your time merit improvement and merit growth. So I think it's but yeah, to circle back real quick on just kind of some of the sentiment and some of the feelings that I think that I've collectively kind of felt from people. There's so many people that I think that have approached this pandemic in a really positive way in terms of I know people that went out and got, became real estate agents. I know people that taught themselves how to write code. I know people that, there's so many different things that I've seen, and I'm so happy that people have made those decisions to take this like moment of stillness to say, hey, what can I do to become better? And it's almost like I felt like it actually has become competitive in a really interesting, good way, that people are, waiting to kind of like reveal themselves after the pandemic. It's like the post-pandemic reveal, like, and this person over here is new and improved. And so it's all good. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think everybody is, um, like I said, a vast majority of the people that I'm speaking with are really excited about this new thought process that has entered their mind.
Yeah, I agree. And that's contagious because once you get that little bug where you're like, well, wait a second, I'm becoming the newer version of myself, the best version of myself. That's what I'm always working towards and living in me, is being the best version of myself all the time. And when you have a growth mindset, it's actually super simple, that all you have to do is make today better than yesterday. So the way that I thought about it, and we'll get to the how do you do it or how do you work on it. So with a growth mindset, our goal, hey, let's make today better than yesterday. Well, how can you make today better than yesterday? Guaranteed. Well, you can learn something, because if you learn something every single day, you're no longer yesterday's version, you're today's version. So for me, I'm like, all right, well, that makes sense. Well, if we know we want to learn something that'll make today better than yesterday, then when's the best time to do it? Well, why not do it first thing in the morning? Why? Because then there's no excuse for why you didn't work on your personal development, or you read, or you learned something. Then all of a sudden you're like, holy smokes, every single day, the first thing that you do, you start with a growth mindset. Well, imagine what the rest of your day is like when the first 30 minutes of your day, or an hour, or in my case, it's like 2 hours, 3 hours of just personal development time. Boom, this becomes the snowball effect where the earlier you start now, everything else that you're going to work on, the rest of the world's just waking up, and you're like, yo, I've been doing this
Yeah.
the last 3 hours, the last 30 minutes. I'm
Mhm.
good. Rinse and
Yeah.
repeat that for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Then we'll see what happens.
The benefits, I mean, you said a couple things earlier that I wanted to kind of circle back on. I mean, it does take time. I mean, it's like people that are in sales process understand that the pipe takes a while to fill up, and so you have to make an investment, and things aren't generally going to turn around tomorrow. It could be a year, it could be 2 years, it could be 3 years, it could be 5 years. Um, I think one of the things that I've realized, that I committed to doing is journaling, my process, my journey and I used to do that in the past, but I think I've become a lot more rigorous with the process. And so, I'm documenting day by day things that I felt were lessons, and things that I felt were wins. And I'm going back through this journal that I started on January 4th. Started on January 4th, so it's been, 6, 7 weeks. Um, and I'm looking back and I'm like, holy shit, like there's been a significant amount accomplished here towards the goals that I had set up really for the first 6 months of 2021. And I don't know that I would have ever been able to conceptually understand that there's been real progress made if I had not written it down. Every Sunday or Monday morning I go through, my entire week, and then I look back through previous weeks, and then also dive into the actual goals of, what was it that you set out, that you embarked on for this year. And I'm like, wow, I'm really on pace on for most of them. But it would not have happened if there wasn't a strong commitment to chopping away at it day by day. You're not knocking down trees in a day. You gotta, it's gonna take there's a process to it, and you gotta whittle away at it. But I think documenting your journey will give you a little bit more power and a little bit more boost to give some acknowledgement along the way, because without explaining it to people don't know what I've been doing for the last month and a half. And it helps when you're able to give yourself a little pat on the back and say, keep going, you're on the right path.
So I want to dive deeper into the journaling process because I believe it is so important and it is so simple. So here's how to do it. Step one, give yourself permission to journal. I think one of the judgments we often have with ourselves is, I don't have enough time, or I've never done this before, or I don't know what I'm going to write about or talk about, or I'm not a writer. And we'll tell ourselves every reason why we can't do something. But what if just for this moment you say, I'm going to listen to Arturo and Rob, and if they believe it, because remember, success leaves breadcrumbs. So if I journal and Arturo journals, maybe there's something here about it. So step one, all right, give yourself permission to do it. And then step number two is, I want you to remove all judgment and expectations for what this has to be. And this is something that I learned. There's a great book about this called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, which is something for creative people. It's almost like a creative Bible. And she talks about morning pages. And the way that I think about journaling with myself is, I have no expectation. It can be as short or as long as I want. Does not matter. And the only goal is to get what's in my head out of my head and onto a piece of paper. So you are likely to see a maturation of yourself when you journal, because depending on where you are in a space, if you're new and maybe times aren't the best, maybe you're going to be journaling about the things that you're not happy about. Well, what is the good stuff about that? You're getting the stuff that you're not happy about out of your head, so it's no longer living in you. So if you can see it as almost a freeing exercise, where you're like, I don't have to think about this anymore. Or on the flip side, for me, as someone who's very positive, I'm oftentimes talking about the things that I'm excited about for this day, the momentum that I'm building, the things that are going on in my journey. And it's almost like a drip of an affirmation of the journey. Like you said, Arturo, the process. It's like, you were in my journal today. I'm really excited to chop it up with Arturo again on the podcast, because I know that's going to contribute to a great day today. And it's a way of almost visualizing for me the day that's going to happen moving forward. And my journaling is done in anywhere between 5 and 20 minutes. And we all have 5 minutes to do it. I'm curious to hear from you, Arturo. Can you shed a little light into your process?
Yeah, it's actually it's driven by a journal that I bought that actually has space in there for questions that are consistent on a daily basis. And so it actually, the journal starts out with, it's a 13-week journal. And so it starts off with a basically like a personal contract that you're making with yourself in terms of the goals and the commitment that you're going to pursue. And it has space there for your gratitude at the very beginning of the day. It has space for your goals throughout the day, gratitude at the end of the day, and lessons that you've learned, and wins. And so for me, as somebody who is kind of again, I've gone through the journaling process, I think, various times throughout my life, but this brought much more structure to it. And I think it's fantastic. And like you said, I mean, it's an opportunity. If there are things that are sitting within your vision that you don't love, well, we're talking about a growth mindset, right? And so change them. Be active about creating some different outcome, and that's it. And it's a day by day process. But if you are documenting it, you will, I guarantee you, be able to see this vision, these ideas, these goals come into maturity.
100%. And I think one of the most beneficial things that I've learned and I use as a tool for myself, when I have something that becomes a negative loop that's sitting in my head, I now have the practice of writing it out and saying, I am no longer given this power. I'm relinquishing this right now. Boom. It's on that piece of paper. And we all have the option to choose how we're going to live the rest of the day.
Right.
Are you going to accept that you relinquish the power, or are you going to let that loop continue in your head? For me, it's just a simple thing. Oh, something's not working. Boom. You no longer have power over me. I'm good right now. And it becomes this freeing experience. And I wonder if you share a few other what you can do to have a growth mindset. And I want you to actually think smaller about what growth means. I know Arturo and I are talking about goals and visions and things that you can do, but it's actually the micro that I find is actually the most beneficial. And here's the simplest way that I can share this with you. So people often say, oh, I don't want to wake up early. I'm not a morning person. Cool. Don't got to worry about that. Whatever time you wake up right now, tomorrow, I want you to wake up 1 minute earlier. Why is that? One, you're not going to notice that minute gone, but two, you did something in the name of growth. And for me, it is more important about the mindset of it all. You woke up that day 1 minute earlier. So by design, you are better than you were yesterday. And when you realize that growth can just be a series of inches in all the different buckets of your life, then you start looking at it and you're like, well, wait a second. This isn't this massive thing that I've made this out to be, that it can be a series. And I know, Arturo, you've even mentioned this to me, a series of little inches here where you're just tweaking. Next thing you know, you've just gained 20 inches. And the real separators from good to great are these inches.
Yeah. 1% better every day. Right. And so that's part of the mentality. People just need to stay positive, have an idea of what it is that you're looking to accomplish, big or small, and give yourself the love and appreciation that you deserve. And I think the rest will sort itself out.
Amen to that. So one book recommendation, and this one is, if you've not read this, it's an absolute must read. It is essentially the basis of growth mindset. It's Mindset, The New Psychology of Success by Carol Dweck. It is, when I was first introduced to growth mindset, it is because of her. She is a Stanford psychologist. Don't quote me on that. Something University of Stanford, but it is the holy grail around growth mindset. I highly recommend you dive deeper into it because it is just such a good book. And quite frankly, that's my action item. If you have not read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, go and pick it up or listen to the audio book. It will change your life. Arturo, what's your action item or takeaway for today?
Takeaway is that I firmly really believe that there is nothing that can't be changed, and it really has to be, it's a commitment thing, it's a goal thing, and time is involved in the process. So if there is something that an individual is looking at and perhaps they're unhappy about, or it's a particular goal that they want to set for themselves, go for it. There are no walls. It's just merely doors. And so you have to make a decision to walk through the door, and that's it.
I love that. I actually posted something on LinkedIn over the weekend that said, belief is greater than brick walls. You believe you can do
100%.
it. Boom. You got this. We're living proof of this. You got this. We want to support you in it. And we want to hear from you around growth mindset. What's one thing that you've learned recently over the last year? Let us know about it. We want to support you and see, because we love being around other growth-minded people. Arturo, where can everybody connect with you?
It's going to be LinkedIn, Arturo Gomez.
And on my end, you can hit me up on LinkedIn or Instagram at Rob Cressy, or check out robcressy.com. I'm starting to build out a more robust content library of things around mindset and high performance that can help you on your journey.